Ethan couldn't understand why Lisa, the babysitter his parents had hired, always wanted to do things that felt so different from the games he played with his friends. Ethan was just 10 years old, a typical fourth grader who loved soccer and reading adventure books. Most afternoons after school, the house was quiet. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, ran a small grocery store in Fairview, Ohio. They worked long hours to make sure Ethan had everything he needed. The school bus dropped Ethan off at 3 p.m., but his parents wouldn't be home until about 6 p.m. "I hate being alone every day," Ethan would sometimes say. "We're sorry, Ethan," his mom, Mrs. Carter, would say with a gentle smile. "It's just a few hours, but we need to work so we can afford your school and other things." Ethan understood, but he often wished his parents could spend more time with him. One evening, his mom came up with a solution. "Ethan," she said, "our neighbor Lisa has agreed to watch you until we get home. She's very nice, and you'll be safe with her." Lisa was in her late 20s, always cheerful, and lived just down the street. She was kind to Ethan, often giving him small treats when they crossed paths. Trusting Lisa, Ethan's parents thought the arrangement would work out. The next day, Ethan started spending his afternoons at Lisa's house. Her home was cozy, and she always greeted him with a smile. "Come in, Ethan." "You must be hungry. How was school today?" she would ask, offering him food. At first, Ethan was shy, but soon he felt comfortable with her. She let him watch cartoons, played games with him, and even gave him a shiny new soccer ball. However, as time went on, something about Lisa's behavior started to feel off. One afternoon, after Ethan finished his homework, Lisa sat beside him with a strange look on her face. "Ethan, I want us to play a special game," she said softly. "It's just for us. You can't tell anyone about it, okay?" Ethan was confused. He trusted Lisa, and she had always been kind, so he didn't think much of it. But as the game progressed, he started to feel uneasy. Lisa asked him to do things that didn't feel right. Her requests were confusing, and even though Ethan didn't like it, he didn't know how to stop her. "Don't worry, you'll enjoy this soon," she said, trying to reassure him. The feeling of dread grew stronger. Every time the school bus dropped him off, Lisa would give him snacks, then retreat to her bedroom, returning and revealing clothes, asking him to do more things that made him uncomfortable. Ethan felt trapped but didn't know how to escape. One afternoon, Ethan found himself walking slower as he approached Lisa's house, wishing he could turn around and run home. But he knew his parents wouldn't be there. When Lisa opened the door and smiled at him, he forced himself to smile back, even though his heart felt heavy with dread. That night, Ethan lay in bed, unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The unease lingered, and he couldn't explain why he felt so uncomfortable. He couldn't talk to his parents yet, and he didn't know how to make it stop. The next day, during lunch at school, Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, noticed that he was quieter than usual. "Ethan, you seem distracted. Is something bothering you?" she asked, concerned. Ethan quickly nodded, not wanting to talk about it. "I'm fine," he lied. But deep down, Ethan knew he wasn't fine. He couldn't shake the fear that something wasn't right. That evening, as he lay in bed, he realized he had to find a way to speak up. But how? The next day during lunch at school, Mrs. Reynolds found Ethan sitting alone. She sat down beside him and spoke softly. "Ethan, you seem really quiet lately. Is something bothering you?" she asked. Ethan hesitated, then glanced around the cafeteria, making sure no one could hear. In a whisper, he said, "Lisa does things I don't like. I'm scared." Mrs. Reynolds' expression immediately changed. She placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for telling me, Ethan. You're very brave. I'm going to help." True to her word, Mrs. Reynolds reported the situation to the school counselor, who contacted Child Protective Services. That evening, a social worker came to visit Ethan's home and explained the situation to his parents. Mr. and Mrs. Carter were devastated and heartbroken by what Ethan had endured. They hugged him tightly, apologizing for not realizing what had been happening. Lisa was arrested and faced legal consequences for her actions. Ethan's parents made significant changes. They rearranged their work schedules so one of them could always be home when Ethan returned from school. They also enrolled him in therapy to help him process what had happened.